Welcome back to Horn Takes, your Texas baseball and football talk destination. I am Sean Redfern. It's Sunday, folks, and it is officially Red River Shootout Week. I can almost smell it. I can almost smell the fair. I can almost hear the crowd. I can almost feel the hundreds of thousands of people in my way, not letting me get anywhere I want to go at the fairgrounds on Saturday. If you guys ever go to the Red River Shootout, which, by the way, I highly recommend if you've never been, definitely go a day early, go do the fair, and then get a chance to enjoy the fair because you are not going to enjoy the fair on game day Saturday. That place is an absolute. It's just a mess, just a complete mess. We had a ton of guests on the show last week, man. I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys again and thank them for coming on the show. Kyle Umlang, Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered, and CJ Vogel of On Texas Football. Those guys came on last week. We had some really good discussions, got a lot of really good stuff during those few episodes last week. I enjoyed that. I don't have people on enough. I got to start getting people on enough, which, by the way, we're going to have Hardball Harge on the show probably Thursday. I'm excited about that. Always love talking to Hardball Harge, man. A lot of good insight, especially on the baseball side for me, man. Harge was like a number 2 overall draft pick in the major league draft. So knows a little bit about baseball. Today, we're going to do Drunk Sean thoughts. And boy, did Drunk Sean get drunk last night. Wow. I couldn't go to bed. I was just my intent was to go to bed at a reasonable time and not just have 33 beers like I did. My intent was to go to bed, get up this morning feeling great, which, by the way, I didn't feel bad this morning. I don't know how that happened. That's not what happened. Football games just kept coming on. They just kept being good football games. And I think I went to bed. I think I finally laid down just before 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting too old for this stuff, but man, it was a good time. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. If you just like to listen to podcasts, we're on Apple Podcast, iHeart Podcast, Spotify Podcast. You can also find all the episodes on the line at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. Make sure you guys check that out. Drunk Sean thoughts. Man, what appeared to be on paper one of the lamest college football days possibly of all time turned out to just be an absolute crazy, amazing, fun to watch Saturday of football. I'm talking everybody was dogging this week. You can't find a clip of somebody that talks about sports last week that isn't talking about how terrible this lineup of games was. And all college football does is get real pissed off at us and tell us all to go fuck ourselves. What a day. 5 of the top 11 teams in the country lost yesterday. It was certainly a day, if you're a top-ranked team, certainly a good day not to have to play. It's almost like this happens like every once in a while. It's either like staged like WWE or like there's like some football god that just decrees on certain days that it's just going to be pandemonium. And that's what yesterday was. Bama goes on the road to Vandy. Vandy 0-66 against the number 1 ranked team in the country in their history and drops 40 on Alabama. And I didn't see like all of that game, but I watched quite a bit of it and it didn't look fluky to me. They just were better yesterday. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for SEC Shorts video this week. It's probably going to be just give it an award. Just give it an award right now because it's probably going to be great. They're all really good, but like the storylines of this one and just the material they have to work with, unbelievable. Tennessee goes on the road and loses a tough one at Arkansas. Aggie absolutely demasculates Missouri at home. That game, man, I knew Missouri was not a good football team, and I've been saying that all year long. I've been saying it. I've been saying it since the Cotton Bowl last year. But good God, Aggie looked good in that game. They dominated the trenches in that game. I mean, just absolutely dominated it. Michigan goes on the road and gets beat by Washington. And I don't know what was going on with that one, but why were they playing the third string quarterback in that game? USC loses on a last second QB sneak to Minnesota. Had Chris Phillips on the show, and he says, I'll say one last thing. All these people that say the games don't matter because we've got a 12-team playoff. Who? To who? Who don't they matter to? That narrative just has to go away. Lots of games yesterday mattered. Just, man. I don't know if are we overhyping it? I mean, am I just overhyping it because it was supposed to be so bad? I don't think so, man. And the games were good. They were like, besides that Missouri Aggie game, the games were all good and all ones I watched anyway. Speaking of Chris Phillips, do not let that man through the gates of DKR on November 23rd. Whoever's in charge of that, do not let him in. Every time Chris Phillips goes to one of these, he's doing the SEC tour this year. He's going to a different SEC venue every single week this year to watch games. And the last two have been upsets with the higher ranking team losing. That's what an upset is. And they're crazy games. I can't do that. I cannot have Chris Phillips in the stadium for the Kentucky game. Somebody make it happen. Keep him out. Sorry, Chris. Got to get you out of there. So last night I'm watching the end of this Arkansas and Tennessee game, and all of a sudden, and I have Hulu, and so all of a sudden something goes weird. Like the broadcast just kind of stopped for me, and I thought it was just the internet, so I just backed out and came back in. And when it came back in, it was on the Geico Skycast. That is a badass way to watch a football game. First of all, the view is really cool because it's from that Skycam thing, so they're behind the play, and they're following the play as the thing's going. Whoever drives that thing, a lot of responsibility there. You could mess some stuff up at a football game with that Skycam thing, but the view was great. The sound, absolutely amazing. Zero commentating, which honestly, I don't need that. I mean, sometimes it's interesting to hear what they're saying, but I think for last night, the end of that game, man, it was just awesome not to have to listen to their voices. The crowd noise was crisp, clear. I mean, you could hear individuals saying things like fans. The band noise was real. I mean, it was like being at the game. I thought it was awesome, and what a perfect time for that to happen too. That the end of that game was exciting. It started on Arkansas's last drive, I believe, where they got down and took the lead. And so, like I said, I mean, you just feel the place erupt. Really cool. Check it. I'm gonna try to find out how I can watch the Geico Skycast more. I thought it was pretty freaking sweet. Officiating in college football is just an absolute disgrace. There's no other way to say it, man. They are just freaking terrible. That picked up pass interference call at the beginning of that Missouri game, and no, that does not help Missouri win the game whatsoever, not even close. I just thought the call was like just god awful. Like, how in the world? First of all, he held him, and then he wouldn't let him go get the ball when the ball was in the air. Never looked at the ball. There's like no check that you got to check, no no check mark that you got to check under the pass interference rule that dude didn't check on that play. How in the world did they pick that up? Multiple offensive linemen standing in the end zone on Miami's go-ahead touchdown. Literally. And there's no way you didn't see them. 300-pound dudes standing in the end zone. No penalty. Yesterday, an Aggie player literally sunk two of his palms right into an official's chest after getting in a shoving match with Mizzou players. Not a single flag. So now you can just hit referees. You just push referees now. Push officials now. It's no big deal. By the way, you're not supposed to push between plays in football either. Those are usually unsportsmanlike conducts, right? To be fair, a lot of people are talking about the no targeting call in that Miami game. I thought that was a good no call. I hate the targeting rule. I think the interpretation of the targeting rule is ridiculous. I think that the reason they put the targeting rule in place is just being completely overlooked during these interpretations. They put the rule in place so people weren't intentionally like taking shots at people. And we're talking like wide receiver. Let's be fair. The rule got put in place for wide receivers that are coming across the middle and taking all these big hits to the head and chest and neck area. And you know what? Those hits were a big part of my childhood, but I get it. The targeting rule is not for two guys running at each other that both see each other. One of them goes to make a tackle, and the other one ducks his head into him. That's not what the targeting rule is for. So the spirit of the rule is just not being upheld. They got to fix that. I hate it. It's ridiculous. The inconsistency in sports officiating, especially college, and maybe not especially college. I really only watch college football. I don't watch the NFL that much. But it's like one crew to the next calls the games completely different. And then even in the same game sometimes, you see one guy get called for holding, and then the exact same type of play happens, and it's even more obvious the next time, and there's no penalty. I don't know what's going on. I mean, they're humans, they're going to make mistakes. I just feel like I, f- I feel like they just I don't know. They, they get involved in the game too much. Like they will miss the most obvious shit and then find like the most hicky tack, like weird little non-mattering things to throw flags on. Please fix it. Who would have thought that after week 6 there would only be one undefeated SEC team left? If you would have told anybody that at the beginning of the season that after week 6 there's only one undefeated SEC team left, there's no way. No way anybody agrees with that. It just happens to be Texas, by the way. SMU, man. SMU has sort of welcomed themselves into the SEC or the ACC nicely. Big road win yesterday for SMU. What the heck was Nico doing on the last play of that Tennessee and Arkansas game? I mean, did he really think he was going to get loose and run for a touchdown there? I don't care if nobody's open or not. I don't care if it's at best a 50-50 ball. It doesn't matter at all. If there's 11 guys back there and you got one guy back there, you got to throw the ball. You got to get the ball out of your hands and get it to somebody that can try to make a play. You know, those are low percentage play. I'm not saying he cost them the game. I just thought it was a really weird decision to take off and run there. ULM didn't give up 70 to James Madison yesterday. I don't know how in the world did UNC give up 70 points to James Madison? How in the world do you score 50 points in a game and lose? By a lot. I think Mac Brown's in trouble, man. I don't know. Man, I really like Mac Brown. I really do. You hate to see anything bad happen to Mac Brown. And I think it would be devastating if like to him if he got fired from UNC. There was a whole lot of sort of scuttlebutt, and I never heard anything else about it after that game against James Madison. Supposedly, some people were reporting, some people were spreading the rumor that Mac Brown told the players he was going to resign. Obviously, that didn't happen. I don't know if the conversation happened, but obviously he didn't resign. But they just lost again yesterday. Pretty rough one to Pitt. Toughest thing in sports, I think, for anybody is learning, just knowing when to hang it up, man. It's hard. He's done that his whole life. I get it. But you want to see him go out with some dignity, right? The Texas has the easiest SEC schedule ever narrative completely imploded on itself yesterday. It was already starting to get pretty implodey. Yesterday, it collapsed on itself. They got 3 road games left on the schedule. They got to go to Vandy, who just beat number 1 Bama at home. They got to go to Arkansas, who hates Texas probably more than any other fan base on the planet, believe it or not. They just beat number 4 Tennessee at home. They got to go to Aggie, who's been stewing since the 2011 loss to Texas. They just beat number 9 Mizzou at home. They still got Blow U in the Red River Shootout this weekend, which is always a crazy game. You never know what's going to happen in that one. They got to play Georgia. They get a Kentucky team at home that took Georgia to the wire, went into Oxford last week and beat Ole Miss. This not an easy schedule at all. And even if it is an easier SEC schedule, which again, I don't think it is, the logos just don't look right to people. But even if it were, we're talking like top 10% toughest schedule in the country. So just shut up about that. That's dumb. You look stupid. Rushing the field turns ugly again. This time it's in Fayetteville. Man, I saw a video this morning. It looked like, I think it was a Tennessee player. Pretty sure it was a Tennessee player. Tossing, just like absolutely shoving and tossing this young lady from Arkansas. I'm assuming. I don't know why you'd be throwing down a Tennessee fan. She was dressed in all white, it looked like. The video wasn't great because something was going on and someone zoomed in with their phone. And that's right when you see this, I mean, she goes flying. She was probably running her stupid mouth, but that's no excuse to do that, dude. You cannot do that. He's going to be in bad trouble. Fans, if you rush the field, please just go enjoy the win with your team and your students and your fellow fans. Stop engaging these players from a team that just lost. Stop stop trying to get a reaction out of those guys because you're going to get it and it's going to be bad. I don't understand that. I don't get why if you run out on the field, like your first thought is, let me go fuck with somebody on the other team that I don't even know. Like what do you get out of that? And it's like adults doing this shit. Like I could understand like a 13 or 14-year-old kid running out on the field and being a jackass. We're talking about grown fucking people. We've seen this start to get uglier and uglier. It happens way too often. It's not good, man. It's not a good situation because these players, I mean, think about it, man. They just played 4 quarters. They just lost a game. They're already upset about that. And then you go start running your mouth at them. And then for the people rushing the field, like sometimes it's not easy to get on the field. Like I'm afraid somebody's going to get really badly hurt trying to just get on the field. You see them jumping over in waves like they're storming the fucking beach of Normandy. Like what happens when somebody falls down there and people just start trampling on top of them? What happens when one of them's foot gets caught and they fall 10 feet and crack their fucking neck? I I don't know, man. I don't like it. I've talked about this before. Actually had a clip get on USA Today about storming the field. And how it's just bad, man. It's just putting people in bad situations, putting the players in bad. It's unsafe for a lot of people. Conversely, the Vandy fans, they just tear down their goalposts, hike them 3 miles through the streets of Nashville, and then go toss them in the river. I think that's how you do it, man. You don't get in fights. You don't mess with other players. I don't know. They probably did. I'm not saying there was probably at least one Vandy fan that said something stupid to an Alabama fan or an Alabama player. The other thing is, like, that's when you do it. People have just started rushing the field for, like, the dumbest shit. It's for, like, that. It's for when you haven't beat a number 1 team ever in the history of your existence. 0-66. And maybe it was top 5 team. They're 0-66 again. It doesn't matter. 0-66. And you finally get one. That's when you go rush the field. Not, oh, we beat the number 4 team. We beat Tennessee, who we've beaten like the last 10 times in Arkansas, in Fayetteville. You don't rush the field because you beat them when they're ranked number 4. My opinion. You don't have to like it. If you're a Cal Bear fan, condolences. 35-18 with a quarter to go. You got game day. You got so much excitement. Teams playing well through 3 quarters. And then in the 4th quarter, you just absolutely cannot stop a soul. I mean, they were talking like fans busted through the barriers at game day at midnight, early Saturday morning to go be there, be in their spot for game day. Can you imagine if they were up all day drinking and then they get to the end of that one? Ugh. I mean, I'm trying to like put myself in that situation, and I think not only would I be incredibly tired, I think that might be the worst sports day of my life. Up for almost 24 hours. Team just pisses away a massive, massive lead in 15 minutes. Condolences, Cal fans. That's Drunk Sean Thoughts for this week. Check us out on Monday. We'll be back for the after action review. We will talk about those Trace Ocher games. We're 12-0 coming in. Tune in on tomorrow to see if we're 15-0. See if we stay 15-0, stay undefeated. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Give us a subscribe, give us a follow. Won't cost you guys a thing, but I sure appreciate all the support. Email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. It's Red River Shootout week, baby. We're about to get into it. It's going to be a fun week. Guys, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Get hooked.